manita wali. No that when did you go on it? You go to the football my walk the end. I forget me first. You go no matter naba Prophet Nebla la Musa more than a big. They dug on the truth teller. The prophet Nebla la Musa more than a big. The chosen one, the Messiah. Isina basa ile mugenaba. Masi motobele bana belege naba. Isina basa ile mugenaba. Dikisi yomuti defense. Dikisi yomuti defense. Amerita biya no ifense. Amerita biya no ifense. Anye kisi yomuti nyamfense. Dikisi yomuti defense. Anya dile maheru shenye fense. Amerita biya no inana fotelo. Inana bao. Tufunu masuru naba. Naba maheru naba. Naba. On the truth teller. The prophet Nebla Musa more than the big. The chosen one, the Messiah. He is the chosen one and the Messiah. He's the light and the way. The wisdom of our days. The healer, the preacher, the truth-teller. Bangati to Kuninge, listen up a second. Watch out before that's the chosen one, the Messiah. Listen up a second. Watch out before listen up a second. Watch out before
Ujjayi, and welcome to the Wizdom of the Nile show. We're broadcasting on Bless FM. It's www.blessradio.org .co.uk. And first of all, we would like to. Well, my name is Nahipsa Nesibik. Alongside
Kasatia Karma.
Yeah, it's good to know my name, isn't it? And anyway, we first like to, as we usually do, is to acknowledge the divine world, and also we want to acknowledge the the world of the dead, the ancestors. We also want to acknowledge Prophet Nebnaba Lumusa and Denibig for bringing us the Earth Center here in the West. Now we will give you just a brief preview of what the Earth Center is about and who Prophet Nebnaba is. And so, first of all, Prophet Nebnaba Lumusa and Denibig was a Dogon high priest, and he belonged to a lineage of healers going back to the Nile Valley. Now, Nebnaba was educated basically in colonial school alongside the traditional and spiritual education which he received going through initiation. And Nebnaba basically excelled himself really right beyond the expectation, or wouldn't say the expectation, but beyond his masters, to become like a master in his field, and that's in science, in Egyptology, in the hieroglyphics, which we know as the Medu. So he was also the founder of the Earth Center. And so Nebnaba, he basically, because of all of his his achievement of how his education and everything else, he was given permission, like say from the Gulmu priests, the kingship, the divinities of the temples. They gave him permission basically to bring this knowledge to us in the West, because of the state of the barbaric state that humanity was in. They felt that it was prudent, really right, that they should kind of say help humanity survive the direction of which the Western world is basically leading us towards. And so he was given permission, really right, to bring to us really the knowledge and the information really, which he as I said, he excelled in really. He was a master in the science, which was the heart of, like say, reading the earth energy. Now the Gulmu people, known as the Goromanchi, Nebnaba is a part of that kind of that group of people. And basically they were the ones really right that was given this gift or this knowledge really like of how to interrogate the earth, and therefore so they were able to kind of say to read the earth energy, looking back in the past, the present and the future, and whatever they kind of the earth kind of revealed to them, they would submit to it. So this is kind of a deep knowledge really right that this particular group of people were able to hold on to, and that made them special amongst like all the other kind of indigenous important bloodlines that actually migrated from ancient Kemet to the west coast of Africa there, alongside like Burkina Faso, Mali, Togo, Benin. They resided around those areas due to the invasion, like say from the Persians, the Greeks, the Romans. They basically saw that ancient Kemet really was a place right where if they wanted to kind of say culture and spiritual knowledge, everybody knew that's where the information was. When they talk about, like they say, the mystery system, that's basically where that's what they're making reference to. When they say the mystery system, it was knowledge that these people they sat upon really like for thousands of years. This is why they were able to kind of make achievements such like building the pyramids, etc. And so, you know, the Western world, you know, they wanted to kind of say, to take that accolade of putting themselves on top of the world. So, you know, what they did, they even actually changed the way that we perceive, or the way that we see the world itself, turning it upside down. Because initially we could say that Europe was at the bottom and Africa was at the top. And in order kind of say to disorientate us and to take away what you have, they had to change the whole philosophy, the whole concept, you know, and turn it upside down. Basically like putting themselves on top of the world so that we're looking up to them. Yeah, whereas initially Africa was on top, you know, not just by the way the world is, but in terms of the knowledge and information, everything that they had. So, as I said, Nebnaba, you know, he started off the Ancaster school alongside other organizations, basically kind of trying to influence and encourage, like say, Africa or Kemet really to maintain its status quo, you know, and to basically be independent away from the Western world, you know. So the kingship, they recognized the potential in Nebnaba. So as I said, they gave him permission really, right, to come to the West there, right, where in say 1995 he first came to America, and he started off the Bayawali magazine. As I said, that magazine is about, like say, the Earth energy readings, and he also started off the Rising Firefly and Sunnyside magazine, which have a lot of information in there, you know, some of it written by Nebnaba himself and some by initiates really, but we'll go more into the publication side of that later on. Yeah. So as I said, Nebnaba because of his the extent of his knowledge, as I said, he was given permission really, right, to do all these things really, and so in 1998 he started off the first first Earth Center school that was in Chicago, Illinois, and he later went on to open another one in New York and continued to open another one in San Diego, and from there he traveled back to Ouagadougou, and he opened another school there, right? So shortly after that, because he went there back in 2006, and by 2008 Master Naba transitioned really onto the other side, back into the spirit realm. But his work was still continued by his son Naba Irita Sumera, who has grown the school to where it is now, and that's expanding the school to Canada. You know, there's a couple of schools over there. We have about 5 or 6 schools there in the USA. We've got 2 schools here in the UK, one here in London and the other in Coventry. So we said Nebnaba was exceptional really, you know, he was a very talented man, really far beyond, like say, the way we are now really, and his aim really was to kind of say to help humanity survive the onslaught really, like, of what we've been put through. And so, as I said, the Omtam School, the Earth Center, it's got 4 branches to it. And my sister Kasati, she's gonna basically kind of take you through the branches of, like say, the Omtam or the Earth Center, and just give you like it's a brief rundown of, you know, what each branch consists of.
Wushai, greetings everyone. Yes, so the Earth Centers mission is to promote and preserve Kemetic traditional culture, which is humanity's original culture. And they do this through the 4 branches of the organization. So one is Firefly Productions, which is a publishing house that disseminates the knowledge, and that is done through the books, magazines, DVDs, CDs, and branded clothing. Within Firefly Production, we have some of the books written by Master Nabra himself, one being the Philosophy Podium, which is a collection of thought-provoking essays written by Master Nabra himself. Then we have the Hejpatar, which is a book of Kemetic traditional stories that imparts knowledge and ancient traditions and values for readers of all ages. Then we have the Book of Purification. This book teaches one how to actually approach the divine world, the world of the dead, our ancestors, in a spiritual technical application that we learn in the school. And all of that is also within this book. So you learn the prayers that we chant every day, and in the Kemetic language, Medu. So in that book you get the translation of it, as of the Medu as well. Then Firefly Production also produces the Code of Human Behavior, which is the 77 Commandments that was given to humanity to move us away out of our barbarism, to bring us closer to the divine world by raising our qualities. We also have, through Firefly Production, is the oldest constellation map of the sky, which is the Dendara, Mandala of Dendera. So that's Firefly Productions. And move on to Ancaster Natural Healing. Ancaster Natural Healing is the branch where we learn and have the benefit of being introduced to the natural healing from the Earth Centers, priests and healers. Most of that being done in Merita, in Burkina Faso, and in Togo at the Het Aishat Healing Temple. And this is available to initiates and members of the public. And it's a network of healers from across the continent that have brought their knowledge and their remedies for the benefit of humanity. Then we have Projects in Merita. Projects in Merita is the branch that actually helps with sustainable living for the communities by building wells within the communities, fixing old wells. Projects in Merita also is the one that builds the Het Aishat Temple and maintains that, and assists with the farming of the food and the herbs. Then moving on swiftly to the school, the Umtam School of Kemetic Philosophy and Spirituality. So in this school, there are three topics that we are available for the public to learn. So one is the Medu. Medu is humanity's original language, which the West calls hieroglyphs. And in this class, the Medu class, you learn the history, the culture and the values of our ancestors. We're using the full capacity of our brain. We're able to think more clearly whilst we're using Medu, when we use Medu, as opposed to when we're using European languages, it only allows us to tap into 10% of our brain. So this class is very beneficial, and it's also the cornerstone of initiation. Then we have the Sunt Natural Healing class, and this is the class where we learn the traditional techniques of assessing and diagnosing illnesses within the body, and applying how to apply natural traditional remedies. Then move on to the last class available is the Katibi class, where we learn Kemetic spirituality. It's in this class that we learn the prayers, 75,000-year-old prayers. We learn that in the Medu language, and we also learn the meditation techniques that have been practiced by the priesthood in Kemet. We also learn the poses, the ancient poses and movements that the West call yoga. So this is the forerunner to all of those type of practices.
And also in the Katibi, this is where we learn about the cosmogony of our the world come into existence, really.
Yes,
Which
yeah.
is, today we we see certain things going on today, really, which the Western world basically has imposed on us as their cosmogony.
Today being what? The what?
I don't want to say that word.
Okay, the 25th of December. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Move on to you. So.
Yeah. So we'll just like to read out some numbers, like of how you can contact the Herf Center for those who are interested, really. Our address is at 21 Sunnyside Road, London, E10 7BB, and the number for contacting us on there is 0208 558 3678. You can also get us like on the www.earthcenter.org. Center spelling with TER, CNTER. The email address is inquiries-uk@theherfcenter.org. The Facebook is the Herf Center UK, and Instagram, is Instagram going through it? Is that right?
Yes.
Instagram is at the Earth Center of UK. Now this is the UK branch, yeah. So any inquiries or anything like that, we've also got some lectures and things going on. So if anyone is interested, really, like, that's the number that's basically you can get through, or that's the address that you can come to. We'll give you more information on that side of it. Now we've got our Coventry branch is Coventry, as we just said there, yeah. And it's the number there is 024762666859, alongside 0730599594, and the address there is 1818 Biggin Hill All Crescent, or Biggin All Crescent, CV3 1GS. And so, for those that side of the country, that's if you were interested in the Earth Center, more or less we're doing the same kind of programs. What's happening there is also happening here in London. So that's the two contact numbers, right, for the UK branch. Also, if you want to contact us within the studio, text or anything like that, it's www.blessfm.org, and the number is 07944431366. Any more information?
About?
The lectures or anything like that?
Yes, okay. Coming up on Saturday, we have two lectures. We have one in Coventry, as we were just talking about Coventry. The lecture is entitled Your Destiny and Your Ancestral Spirit, the Importance of Ancestors. So this is this Saturday on the 28th of December, 5:30 to 7:30 at the Earth Center, Coventry. which is 18 Biggin Hall Crescent, Coventry, CV3 1GS. Entrance fee is £7 at the door, and Nahib Sir has just given you the telephone number for that. And then on Saturday in London, we have the lecture at our London branch, which is a traditional medicine, traditional healing versus modern medical system. So this is on this Saturday at 6:30 to 8:30 at 21 Sunnyside Road, London E10 7BB. However, this Saturday is also Divine Holy Day. So for anyone who wants to attend the what do we call it? The Zemzem, which is Kemetic prayer and meditation and chanting in honor of our ancestors, the divine world, this Saturday on the Divine Holy Day. That will be at 4 p.m. at 21 Sunnyside Road in Leighton. And Divine Holy Days, we always dress in white. So if you can't dress in white, you can dress in a light coloured clothing, but not black or red. And the number for that, if you wish to call, is 0208 558 3678.
Yeah. We've also got the graduation and orientation coming up.
Yeah, we have that coming up in February. So, sorry, February the 2nd, we have the graduation of the next round of initiates going through. Go on.
Yeah, and that will be from 5:30 p.m. to 10 p.m. and that's gonna be at the new Chances, 399 I Road, Tottenham, N17 6QN. And there's also the that's on the 2nd for the graduation, which everyone is welcome to come along to that. That's an open kind of free invitation there. And the orientation is on the 8th of February from 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. And that's where our doors open up to take on new initiates. It's at the same address. It's New Chances, 399 I Road, Tottenham, N17 6QN. And the previous numbers that we've read out for the London, any inquiries, you can contact us on those numbers. So we'll give you the number again. It's 0208 558 3678. Yeah.
Or you can email on inquiries-uk at theearthcenter.org. Centre is spelled CENTER.
And we'll just play you a short interlude. Who's this artist? It's
Leah Renee Dior.
Defined by beauty a woman, all humankind. Can a woman call a man beautiful without some kind of sign? In society, they teach us that it's self-defined. So what if we wake up one morning and suddenly change our mind? Does it mean that the thing we label is beauty is suddenly left behind? Or is it just our mind looking for the new enzyme? Like all the time, man is covetous, self-righteous, and unjust, and full of lust, lacking pleasure. So how is that beautiful to us? What is beautiful? What is beautiful? Is it what you behold? Is it what you've been told? What is beautiful? Oh, beautiful. 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 What is beautiful? Is it what you behold? Is it what you've been told? What is beautiful? Oh, beautiful.
Ushayi, welcome back, everyone. So that song, beautiful. So the topic of the show is, what is beauty? So we just like to ask, who defines what is beauty? As the song said, is it what you behold, or is it what you've been told? Now recently, I'm sure most of you have heard, first time in history, that a fully black African woman has been crowned Miss Universe. Zazibini Tunzi, South African woman. Also, this has broken the records, because within the same period of time, we've also Miss World has been crowned, a Jamaican woman, Tony Ann Singh, and there's been 3 USA titles also being held by a black woman: Miss USA, Miss Teen USA, and Miss America, and now recently Miss France. So it's been a big craze on the internet, in the news. All of a sudden, black women are top of the world, and we're suddenly being told that we're beautiful. But who is telling us this? Who has been defining this for us? Who has been teaching us the opposite to this? As well as the fact, do we even need these titles to define our beauty? So with Miss Universe, which I found interesting, is that she was a natural. Her hair was natural, and before this competition, she entered a competition for Miss South Africa. I think it was 2 years ago, and she actually wore a wig and she lost that competition. She came back the next year with her natural, beautiful self, and she won Miss South Africa, and then she went through and she won Miss Universe. And apparently they told her while she went for Miss Universe that she should put on another wig, which she refused to do. Now, and she won the title. Now, if we can see on every day when we're up and about, so many black women are not wearing their natural hairstyles, and it begs the question as to why.
Yeah, a very big question really as to why. Not just the hair, but it's a big industry, you know, the nails, the false eyelashes,
Skin bleaching.
You know, it's relentless. And we know it's a big industry out there, which a lot of our money has been piled into that industry there really, because someone has said to us that you don't look beautiful as you are. And that's why we chose this topic today, because it's, you know, we see a lot of, you know, our women are natural beauty, yeah, and but for some reason society has defined to them their definition of what beauty really is, or what they think it is. And the way I see it personally is that you know, when we started off the show, it's about if you envy someone of something that you haven't got. So therefore the only way that you can elevate and put yourself on top is to destroy that person's kind of values, their ego, I won't say ego, just their value, the way that they see themselves really. And so the question is, what is beauty? What makes you beautiful? You know, is it that how to beauty? I mean, those people, how do they perceive? How do they see themselves from the beauty? Is it an external thing or is it an internal thing? How do you see yourself really? What defines you as a person, that when you look in the mirror, you can truly look at yourself and like and love what you're actually seeing? You know, as opposed to you look in the mirror, and because someone has told you, right, that what you see in the mirror is not you know, beautiful, so we tend to say go towards, you know, what society basically has laid down to us as beautiful. Now, you know, we're targeted in many different ways through we have like social media, you know, Instagram, all these different kind of network, the billboards, you know, the TV, the magazines. We see like a lot of these women's own magazines, yeah, and where, you know, like the images in there, you know, when you do see a black woman in there, she doesn't look like herself. You know, I remember years ago when I used to see like Miss World competition, and it was like, you know, it was hard to see a black woman that actually looks like themselves. And you know, oftentimes when I even go out to the shops and I see a natural looking black woman, I would have to stop her really and compliment her really. You know, that, you know, there's one occasion I was in a shop and I actually saw a woman, and I had to stop her and say to her, you know, you're the first black woman I've seen today. And she looked at me as if to say, well, are you crazy? Are you looking something or not? But truly, it was the first natural black woman that I actually saw for the day that I can identify to, you know, that actually looks and love what they saw within themselves, that they could express themselves for who they are, you know. So as the song was saying, you know, beauty comes from within and it radiates out. And it's not just you know, the looks, it's
your actions.
It's your action, it's your values. I mean, everybody's got their different definition really, like as what they defined as beauty, you know. But really it is about loving yourself for who you are, because we're all individual and we're all unique within our own way. But what society tends to want to do is to put everybody in the same sphere, right? Where you have to be size 0. Is it size 0? Or this? Well, the image really that they show out there, really, you know, people are doing, they're dieting, they're doing all kinds of things, really, right, to look like these images and things that society has portrayed out there, really, like as what they define as being beauty. And consequently, within the black race, we see that we hate it ourselves for our natural beauty.
We've been taught to hate ourselves.
We've been taught to hate ourselves, yeah.
Which has produced this mental illness that we're seeing nowadays, with everything being false, from the hair to the skin colouring, to the nails, to the eyelashes, to the what do you call it? The breast implants, the buttock implants. Which is really strange, because it's gone actually opposite, because originally they told African women that they were ugly because they had big backside. I'll just say it for what it is. And
big buttocks.
Big buttocks, yes.
and full lips.
And full lips. So they've always degraded us because of that. And yet at the same time, white women they've devised bustles underneath their clothes to make it appear as if they have big buttocks, and that was way in the past. Nowadays they're actually implanting lip injections,
yeah,
and
the buttocks,
yeah.
Is it boot?
I mean, I don't know it, but
yeah,
they do this to look like us, and the us that they've always been telling are ugly. So we have the black women trying to look European,
and vice versa,
and then vice versa. So the thing is, what kind of mental illness are we actually perpetrating on our children, on our beautiful black children, when they're seeing their mothers that don't even look anything like them as a child, and then you're supposed to want to emulate your mother. So that beautiful black child wants straight hair, or lighter skin, or the fake nails. It is mental illness, and it's also causing a lot of physical and mental, psychological damage, on the fact that neurological damage, I should say, by the chemicals that are in these products.
And this has started from a very long time ago. It's not like just now, really. I mean, if you go back in the days where we used to see, like, our women and used to use these hot iron comb that they used to put in the fire to get hot, and literally they would run this through their hair, really, right, burning up their scalps, just trying to kind of straighten their hair, to make it look European, because it's like the closer that you look to being European is the more that they felt that they would be accepted, only to recognize that regardless of what they did, they were never going to be accepted. So it is about you trying to be yourself. But, you know, we see out there today, it's a massive industry.
It's a $1 billion industry, isn't it?
You know, and the worst part of it is that we still don't even have a percentage of that. It's all in the hands of the people who
But how can that be the worst thing, when actually you're just going to be profiting off the destruction of your own people? So even I know hairdressers who used to always be chemicalizing people's hair, and they've actually gotten sick by using these products, because the toxic chemicals that are coming from the products is actually causing illnesses within the hairdressers themselves. So I know hairdressers now who will only just do natural hairstyles. So it is a big major industry, but who wants to profit off causing death to your own people? So even if black people do have their own businesses in relation to those type of products, I wouldn't necessarily say that's even a good thing still.
Yeah, no, I can appreciate that, yeah, but at the same time, really, though, I mean, if we know that it's about money, yeah, and the influence of how society basically kind of has put it out there. We know that even their own people really like is being caught up within this industry. So we're targeted as a race, but the industry, it goes beyond that. We see like Asian people, they do a lot of skin bleaching, that kind of stuff as well. Yeah, as well as indigenous black people wants to kind of say skin bleach to look outside of themselves, because there is that complex about the lighter you are, the more you'll be accepted, because at the moment it's the West that actually is defining, or they're running the world. It come back to when we were saying that they saw what was there before, and they came in and they're turning things upside down. And to elevate themselves, they had to put themselves on top. So they make you feel bad about yourself, and that's a psychosis within what they do. They make you feel less than. Yeah.
And then they've reinforced this colonial mindset, this hatred, through their religion and through their education.
Mm-hmm.
So with their white gods, or should I say God, one white God, and through the educational system they've perpetrated this evil on self.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the concept of beauty, it doesn't just extend to a female. We also see the males out there,
Mm-hmm.
and they're caught up in it really. We've seen our society basically has turned upside down, where men are feminizing themselves to look beautiful,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, they're doing
Mhm.
exactly the same. So
Yeah.
as women, that in some cases, sometimes you don't know who is who. It's hard to say, but it's true.
Yeah.
And so we see like say from back in the days, we had the likes of the Jerry curl. We see beauty is not just about the looks, its appearance, it's the actual branding of clothing that people are wearing. Our again, men are wearing clothes that feminizes them really, because society said, well, this is their definition of what beauty is. So the shops and everything, that's the design that they put out there. So we see men are wearing these skinny jeans.
That's causing infertility, isn't it?
Exactly,
Mhm.
but for them it's fashion,
Oh, and then the worst thing is once upon a time you would never go on street and seeing people wearing tattered clothes.
Yeah.
And now you can actually buy it in the shops
Mm-hmm.
for quite a lot of money, because they're actually torn the jeans themselves now and selling it to you in the shops.
Mm-hmm.
And due to mental illness, people are actually buying this
Mm-hmm.
and thinking that they're looking good, wearing jeans where half of their skin is poking through the gaps.
Mm-hmm.
Where, as I said, I know at least 30 years ago that would have been totally, absolutely unacceptable.
And it's something like where when you look at kind of the destruction, the self-harm that's causing. I mean, it's ironic, like you pass say something like a nail shop, and you'll see the person who is doing the nail, they're wearing a mask.
Mhm.
And the person whose nails is being done is just sitting there oblivious to what's going on. And I don't know if common sense doesn't prevail really, right, that they think, well, if the person that is doing your nail is wearing a mask, they must be doing that for a reason. But yet you're sitting there unprotected, and your sole agenda is to put these nails on because you think that's going to define, make you look good. But at the same time, in doing that, as we said, the toxic that you're breathing in is like the acetylene is kind of actually burning off the mucus of your chest, your lungs, causing you kind of say probably lung damage, all in the name of beauty. So it's like you're getting one thing, but you're losing another. And so is at what stage do they evaluate really, right, that there's a consequence to what they're doing? The skin bleaching, we see like how recessive, some people have bleached that far that they can't even go into the sun no more. Yeah, because their skin is so thin. Yeah, it actually exposes them and make them more prone to develop like skin cancer. Yeah. So we see this industry really, right, where, as we say, it's a mental illness, because people have caught up into this kind of this fashion world, yeah, that basically is just an industry there to subdue people, you know.
I mean, actually, the side effects of skin bleaching is really, really bad, and it does cause cancer. The studies have proven that it does cause cancer, and many different other symptoms or illnesses. Mercury poisoning, it causes numbness, high blood pressure, fatigue, a sensitivity to light, neurological symptoms such as tremor and memory loss, irritability and kidney failure. So you're going to subject yourself to a chemical to look like somebody that you weren't born to be, to suffer illnesses such as this, and they're irreparable symptoms. You can't turn back the clock. So this is what's being perpetrated in the name of beauty.
And coming to say like this time of the year, you know, we see like the amount of of people really that's out there trying to say look good for this time of the year. And if people cannot appreciate that it's an internal beauty, is like an internal thing, you know. I don't know what your definition of how you perceive what beauty is to you, but as we said, it's something that's coming from within, coming outwards really, and you have to be able to love yourself without looking down on someone else, to make yourself feel good about yourself, because we're all different, and it's a personality, the characteristic really, like say, of what beauty is. It's, for me personally, it's about a person's integrity,
and your harmonization with beauty, with nature and with others. But we need to wrap up at the moment to play a tune to bring in our international caller. So we'll be with you on the other side.
Black is the life that I live. respond to that. Jason, yes, I can hear you. Ujai.
Of the Nile show.
Ujai,
Duao, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, welcome to the Wisdom of the Nile show. Yeah.
Wow.
As you know, we were talking about the topic of beauty. Who defines beauty?
First of all, though, would you like to introduce yourself to the listeners to know who we're speaking to?
Okay. Duao, I'm Katasta Fakara. From the Fakara Generation UK. I also host on every other week. I was doing that hosting the Wisdom of the Nile show, and I'm looking forward to doing some hosting when I come back. So I'd like to say duao to you both. You're doing a great job. I know a lot of initiates are really strengthened by the work you're doing and holding on to the show the way you're doing. So duao. I think before I go any further, I would like to acknowledge the world of the divine, and I'd like to acknowledge my ancestors for their guidance in my life up until this point here, where they continue to keep me on the path of our ancient ways. So yeah, I'd like to do that.
Good. And so what I mean, just our names really, right? They're very important to us, really. Yeah? So just in case the viewers or the listeners don't really know what your name Katasta means, could just give them a brief kind of explanation.
Okay, so Katasta is the one who meditates as Aishat. The meditation of Aisha means the meditation. The one who meditates like Aisha. And as we know, Aisha is our ancestral mother, the one they call Isis, or the one that they look at as Mary. So I'm Fakara, the one who carries the spirit of Ra, which is our generational name, which hopefully our listeners know by now. I'm also the mayor of the London School. Yeah.
Yeah, but not just that though, really. I mean, you've set the foundation for all the other generations to follow, so we appreciate your hard energy that you put into kind of keeping the school going.
Yeah, and I mean that is a generational thing, because we all bounce off each other and work with each other. Sometimes we work well, sometimes we don't, but that's along the journey. But because it's the traditions, and we all, like yourselves, we're thirsty for the ancestral knowledge. So it was really a pleasure, a blessing to be able to do this work. It is. It's an honor and a blessing, because if our ancestors and through the Dogomba people and through Nebnaba Lumusa Modern Denibeganisa Naba Iritashin Mira, having the waj to continue the work and bring it out, so that those of us who were exiled could, grasp that, because what we have out here isn't sufficient for the thirst that some of those of us out here who have that spirit, that energy for our answer. It's not enough, as I'm here in Jamaica, and I trod Rastafari for many years, and I give thanks for that. But I still wanted to drink of the cup that was closer to the roots of our ancestry. And through the Wusarian temples, we were given that opportunity, and that's like, I don't want to say the word wonderful, but I don't know if I can find a word great enough to say that. For me, I am so thankful and blessed, so yeah, it's an honor to be part of this work.
And I'm just I sort of, you said that you're a part of the Rastafarian culture and things. Do you believe, right, that staying on that trod with the knowledge that you've acquired now, do you see that you would have been able to kind of say to get that understanding, taking it from that perspective as opposed to the choice that you've made now?
Sorry, could you just be a bit clearer what you're saying? The question is what?
The question is, I myself was on the Rastafari trod, yeah, but there were still answers to questions, really, right, that I just found I didn't hear. It wasn't forthcoming, and it's coming to the Earth Center, getting the knowledge from this perspective that gave me that clarity. The question I'm asking, do you see that you're able to get that same knowledge, and how this knowledge is important to, say, even extend to places like Jamaica amongst, like, say, the Rastafari community, in bringing them that one step closer?
So for me, Rastafari was that bridge that took me back to Africa. So without Rastafari, I may not even have thought about it. I may have, but I certainly wouldn't have been anywhere as close to the traditions as I was through Farai, because I actually left the UK and came to live with the Rastafari community here in Jamaica. And if you know, as Rastafarian, the Rastafarian way of life is to live with nature, planting your own food, living, clean heart, clean mind, taking yourself out of the politics and recognizing a King of Kings. So all of those principles are principles that are within the Kemetic culture. So walking the Rastafarian path stood me instead to, it made it easier for me to even embrace the culture, because I was already living, even carrying the locks, and then seeing, Neb Naba and priests from the Wasarian temple carrying that locks and having that tradition. So what Rasta did, it moved me from the, as we say, bar-led, but the regular Jamaican thinking, living under the Queen, living under the Prime Minister, and just following that. It opened the door back to Africa. So for me, it's not a comparison. It's part of the journey. It was a necessary part of the journey for me. So I won't say it's done in part, because it continues to bring souls closer to our Kemetic ways, our ancient ways. So it was a necessary part. When you're a child, you drink milk. As you get older, you begin to eat harder food, and that's a journey. But you can't stuff a yam and cassava and banana down a baby's throat. It has to have the milk first. So it's part of that journey, reconnecting. And this connection was made spiritually. It wasn't anyone who came and said to the Rasta brothers and sisters, oh, this is how it should be. This was done spiritually. So it's that same ancient spirit of our ancestors, which reincarnated back in Rastafari. This is how I see it. And so going obviously back to the temples, it would naturally be more closer to the Kemetic, because they were keeping that, and that was the whole point. And Rastafarian said, go back to Africa. Marcus Garvey said, go back to Africa. And when you go back to Africa, that's where you're going to find the culture of our ancestors that were taken away, which is what we found with the Kemetic temple. So that's how I would really answer that question.
And the likes of, say, the Earth Center, how do you see that kind of prospering in somewhere like Jamaica? Do you think the people will be forthcoming in receiving this kind of knowledge?
Well, they took 20, 30, 40, 50 years to even understand what Rastafari was telling them. When they used to say, we are African, the other Jamaican, me are not African, me are not one of them, me are Jamaican. So that took it long enough for us Jamaicans now to proudly say, yes, we're Africans. there's a whole debate out here about the Obia law and things like that.
Yeah.
So the spiritual traditions of Africa, that's going to take another time for them to understand. But in saying that, the truth has to stand. It has to stand. And so it has to maintain what it is and stand, we have aspects of the culture out here, like the Maroons, who practice the traditional ways, like the Kumina people, and all being well, I should be going to a Kumina soon, and it was really good because I was learning today more, which is only today I learned that, because we are from St. Thomas, which is the east of the island, which is the part of the island that is known for the Kumina. And the Kumina are the traditional drumming and dancing and what they call mile, going into that spiritual, trance, what they call it. And it was only today that I learned that my ancestors here were strong Kumina people. And I'm like, yes, I knew there had to be something. I mean, come on, right? Oh, man. I was like, okay, finally I get the confirmation that we were strong Kumina people on my grandmother's side and my mother's side. So that's the blessing. But, yeah, so it's going to take time because of the nature. We see in the world today where things are really going, this Setian principle and the Wisarian principle, and one is for life and one is against life as we know it. So, even right here in Jamaica now, there's a lot going on which is against life. So, that road, we know, walking or trying to walk as an initiate, that road, even for those of us who are desirous to walk that road, how challenging it is, much less for those who don't even want to walk it. Oh man. So there's work to be done. There is always work to be done. But in saying that, I went to the hot springs in St. Thomas here. So these are hot water springs that come from the volcano under the earth, and it's hot water and it's beautiful. And I don't know if you had a speaker on your show a few weeks ago. I think he said that was talking about aspects of Jamaica, and I don't know if he spoke about the hot water spring that we have here in St. Thomas, but it was one that a runaway slave had been beaten really badly, and when they found him, it was only a few days after he'd beaten, and they knew how badly they had beaten him. He was lacerated, and when they found him, his wounds were very well on their way to healing, more than would have been normal for the amount of days that he'd been missing. And so he's the Bakra master here, the slave owner, asked him, how come his wounds were healing so quickly? And he said, tell me, and I promise I won't beat you again. So anyway, the African told him where he had been. He had found these springs, this hot water spring, and he had bathed himself in it, and it had healed. And so now it's become a place where tourists go and visit, but we the locals will go into the bush area, because they've built a house where you pay to go in, right? Of course, it's been commercialized, but we go into the bush and we use it, so it's a place where we go. But on the way back from there, this brethren who's around my family said, look, there's this man I want you to meet. And he mentioned him before when I came here. But anyway, we were driving. We said, okay, we're going to go and see this brother. And we went and we knocked. He's like a Bobo Rasta man. He had but anyway, he came and he met me. And he's a Jamaican. He used to be in the army and he traveled the world. So, introduce each other because they thought it would be good for us to link, Rastafarian and the culture. So it was really good. You could see from he stood there that, there was an energy in him. Anyway, as we began to speak, he said, he's traveled Africa and, he's been to Burkina Faso. I said, oh, you've been to Burkina Faso. Okay, well, I work with, and I'm an initiate with the temples in Burkina Faso, the Wisarian temples, and there was a high priest who came and brought the knowledge into the West, and he said, don't tell me Snebnabala Musa Morandenibek. I said, what did you say? I could not believe that this man here, and then he said it, because if you don't know his name, there is no way you can just say his name off the tip of your tongue like that. I said, what did you say? And he said, Nabnabala Musa Morandenibek. I said, yes, that's who founded the Earth Center. I'm like, what? He says, no. He says, that man, I've never met somebody. And so a whole conversation started. This man had traveled and met Nebnabala Musa Monde. And I want to do an interview with him. So hopefully I can get back to meet him, do an interview with him, you know, so that I can play on the show. And amongst many things, so he met Neb Naba in Burkina many years ago, and then he'd gone to the States, and he saw Neb Naba again, and he was reminding him who he was. And Neb Naba said, oh, you know, they were greeting each other. He says, you know, he was calling his friends, you know, he said, this man here, you know, I met him, and so on and so forth. But one of the things that he said to me, which I was like, wow, he said, and this is what Neb Naba said to him, he said, you know, when I welcome you into my house, I welcome you with all your diseases. And he said, when Neb Naba said that to him, he kind of looked at him and he said, yes, when I accept you into my house, I have to accept you with everything that goes with you. Your rights, your wrong, your ancestral energies, your past history, everything. I accept you with all your diseases. And I was like, wow, wow. So, yeah, you know, so whether it would be welcomed here in Jamaica, it will take time. But I think Rastafari has laid the foundation, not just here, but across the Caribbean and across the world, for the conversations to be had. And I would definitely think, so I did a talk so I did a radio talk on the work that I do as a healer outside the Earth Center, because as you know, my training is in medical herbalism, so I do that anywhere. And then with the Earth Center, I've learned I'm learning traditional knowledge through the Sunt. And so I was doing an interview speaking about the holistic work that I do, and of course I spoke about the Earth Center. And then I did a talk at Devon House, and Devon House is like the major house here, which everyone goes to. It's a very status place. And
Colonial.
People were just dumbfounded. You could see it. You could see it on their faces. And then afterwards, the questions that were being, you know, brought forward, talking about the Earth Center, because that talk at Devon House was specifically on the Earth Center and the work that they do, and the Dagomba temples, the Wuserian temples. I can see that, you know, the time definitely is here for people, because like I said, there's a lot going on here as well, and across the world, because of the times that we're in. And people are looking and seeking for that light, that divine light, because there's so much darkness going on. There is so much, I have to say the word evil, you know, humanity, the man to man, Bob said man to man is so unjust. It's gone past unjust now, and it's barbaric. It's returned to barbarism, you know. So this light is definitely needed here, definitely.
I mean, that's Master Naba's, that's what his intention really, isn't it? To reach out to the world, not just any individual set of people, but to humanity itself, really, isn't it?
That's right, and even the fact that he says, you know, if you can't be a star in the sky, be a firefly on earth, because the light is needed, because the human mind is descending into the abyss. You can see it. You can see the dissension, you know, and so the Earth Center, you know, stands as that lighthouse, that beacon in the darkness. I do really see that, you know, and I understand that. So definitely, definitely has its place.
Well, I'm sure by the time you leave Jamaica, there'll be a few enlightened people there, really.
Yeah, we're always doing the reasoning, you know. Next week or two, I'm going to be heading up further into St. Thomas, between St. Thomas and Portland, where the Maroon Trail, we're going to go up into the Maroon Trail. There's another healing center. And, you know, it will be good when I come back actually to see if any connections could be made with this sister here who has a healing center, and well, there's some other things that are possibly setting up here in Jamaica with the healing center. But certainly, so for example, when we go on this walk, it would be myself, this sister who, the ancestors communicate with her. And I spoke with another sister who's flying down from the States, who's a Yoruba priestess. And we'll be making this walk, and I know we'll be sharing knowledge, of the traditions. So, and then we're going to be meeting with a maroon healer, Harris, Iselin Harris. Oh, her name's just slipped me. But I actually have one of her books, and she was one of the main healers, traditional. And that the Maroons, for those who don't know, the Maroons were those who held the traditional ways, the traditional natural sciences, and were able to free themselves and go up into the hills, and were able to maintain their sovereignty, their independence against the British soldiers in the hill, using kinetic science, or natural science, what they call obia, and that is what kept them free. And to this day, they've never been colonized, and so the British had to make a pact with them. So these people still hold traditional ways. On the 6th of January, they have a day to commemorate their traditions, and it's interesting that the Wizdom temple in Benin also hold their thing on the 6th of January. So that's interesting. Yeah. So, so those are the kind of indigenous people that we want to, share this knowledge with, because they still hold traditional knowledge. And, for those of them who even don't know about the Earth Center, and because the same sister actually said that she wants to come on one of the pilgrimages, because I was talking about the healers and the pilgrimage that we do, and she definitely wants to come on one of those. So, and I mean, that's just, those sisters we were talking to there. So I definitely see the people who's going to be interested in the Earth Center here, definitely.
So how similar are the herbs and things that compared to what they use in Merita, like say, as opposed to in Jamaica? Is there a lot of difference, or they're doing the same thing, or how do you make that comparison with the herbs?
Well, I mean, the herbs is the plants that was given by, the Most High, the divinity. So those plants they come from the earth. So it's the same plants being used from the earth. But in terms of them being used, I mean, they would do, you see that, there's different ways that the herbs will be used, and they would bring the herbs here. So we boil the herbs just like you would do in Kemet. There may be different ways to apply it. So, for example, since I've been here, I've had to do 2 sets of different herbal portions. One for people who's here, I'm going back to the UK, but also for Jamaicans here who don't have access to the herbs, or don't remember or don't use the herbs. So I've been gathering herbs and making, because there's a lot of this cough thing going on here, which I left in the UK, and there's a lot of that happening here. Things like iron tonics, things to strengthen the body. Now, Iselin, that's it. So when I go up into the Maroon Hills, it would be good to see some of the things, because I do know that some of the ways that certain medicines are prepared are different. They use the earth, just like in Medita, some of the herbs, depending on what it is that they're going to use to heal, they may prepare it slightly different. So they definitely have the basic ways of putting it in teas, drying it, we call it over here. They call it steep it in the UK. You just put the herb in the tea. Some of them that you boil, some of them you may pound them and apply them externally. I haven't seen them using things like snuffs, like we have the brain cleanser. I haven't seen that, but there will be those basic ways, and then I know of other ways that they will use using the earth. So, for example, certain things that they will bury in the earth and leave it for a period of time, depending on what the herb is. So, they still have traditional ways, and the maroon will be interesting to hear some more, all being well and the ancestors willing, if I'm able to meet this particular herbalist, because I've met others, even the brother who knew about Lebna Musa more than Denny, but he himself was a herbalist. And then there was another herbalist coming out, so we were able to exchange and speak about some of the herbs. But like, so for example, there's a herb that I used here for a tonic. I recently put it in a herb, and they call it Ramgo Dashalam, or horny goatsweed. Right, so it's a herb that's used for tonic. Men will use it for their virility, but it's a herb that's used in the UK. Turnera diffusa is the name that is used in the UK, and in China, it's called Yang Hong something. Now, that herb is used. If I didn't come here and hear that name, I would have seen that herb, and I didn't know that it was the same herb. It was only when I researched it that I realized it's the same herb. So, and I do know that there are certain herbs that we use there that they do use in Africa, but it's recognizing, and that's why even the field of herbs and herbal medicine, I think, is so important. And I know this Saturday you have a talk at the school on traditional modern medicine, right?
Yeah, that's correct, yeah.
Yes, yeah. So, I mean, even that knowledge of being able to recognize the herbs again and understand the use, I mean, a lot of that's been lost. And that's another reason why I'm taking to the hills to go and see some of the traditional people, because I want to know more of the other herbs that, we've lost knowledge of. And as you know, when I went to Merita, I spent time with a traditional healer learning there. It really is about getting back this knowledge and then sharing that amongst. And one thing she did say, and I'm going to be doing a talk up at the healing center that they have there, is that the women now in the eastern part of St. Thomas, they want to know more about the herbs because they've lost it. And she said there's a lot of women coming to them now wanting to know more about the herbs and looking to learn, which is some of this knowledge is what the slave master insisted that we didn't have, and that was linked to the obia because it was empowering. We could use the herbs for many things. So this is part of the knowledge that has been lost that does need to be reclaimed, because if we're talking about the earth and what the earth produces, this earth was given to us by the divinities. If we're really understanding where we are and what we have and what the divine world created, this living world that we are a part of, that we must feed from to grow, that we must use to heal, we have to feed from a living world which was created by the divine world. And so the knowledge of that divine world and those living elements, the plant kingdom being one of them, is essential for our well-being on this planet. It is essential. It is that knowledge that the pharmaceutical companies use, synthesize, make a synthetic copy, and then sell back to humanity. And we see where by the time our people are 40, they're already on some kind of medication that is not designed to heal them, but to maintain them until they get to the grave. So to avoid all of that, we have to go back to the traditional knowledge, which is the plant kingdom and the natural world. There's nothing else.
I mean, as you say, you're in the right place where there's so much natural herbs and things there, and that knowledge is slowly being lost, though, isn't it, really?
Yeah, so that's why the people like the Maroon and the Rastafarians, because the Rastafarians made it a point to learn about the herbs. This is why, even in our eating, so those people who kept that knowledge is who we want to sit at their feet and learn from.
Yeah.
Katasta, can I ask, what is the Renaissance with the youths in relation to this?
Are you talking about the knowledge of the herbs?
Yes,
the knowledge
the knowledge of the herbs are wanting to learn because they're the next generation. Are they showing an interest in picking up this tradition?
Well, so the majority, I mean, you see they've been Americanized. So, the American music is out here, the American dress code is out here. Kentucky, you walk past Kentucky, the line is as long from here down the road, and you think these people say they don't have any money, but they things like Kentucky is packed. So the influence of the Western world is
strong.
Just strong is an understatement. You know, it's kind of taken over. So the majority of the youths are definitely American-minded, and if it's not America, it's UK. But, you know, the fact that the certain women, they're starting to see, because you see, the women are the gatekeepers of health. Women are the ones, when your children are sick, it's the women that the children go to. So it's necessary for them to understand, what can I give my child to heal my child? Statistically, natural medicine, 80% of the world's population, and this is figures by the World Health Organization, that crook, they still give those figures of 80% of people still use natural medicine across the globe.
Okay.
Either because they can't afford modern medicine, or because they still have trust in the traditional medicine. So those that have been exposed, like here, for those people who knew a little bit, because most of us in the Caribbean had some access, because, you know, your grandmother or your mother would say, go pick that bush stick, good for the nerves, go pick some. Most people have some knowledge of something. I don't think there's anybody here who doesn't know some bush for something.
So in a sense, poverty,
usage of it is the issue.
Sorry, I was going to say, so in a sense, poverty is not such bad then, because if they had the money, they would self-destruct then, really, and it go into the Western pharmaceutical then, really, isn't it?
Yes, I would say that, but it's because, remember, Jamaica and the Caribbean is a culture which is, you know, you're amongst the trees, you're amongst all of those things. And it's not far removed when our grandmothers used to use herbs, and that would have been passed down to our mothers. So as children, we would have heard, you know, use Cinco Bible, which is aloe vera for this, use breadfruit leaf for that. They would still remember that being said, you know, and actually saying that, now I think about it, there is a lot more of the herbs being said, and because you see there's now these vans that drive around and say, come get your Medina roots here, come get your this roots here, and I see a lot more of it. And that's actually good. When I was speaking to one of the sisters here, there is this move actually generally back to herbs, and you know why? Because of the reggae music. You have people like Chronics, you know, people like these young generation who, you know, give me Medina, let me do Medina, you know, and he sings another one about there's another one about another herb, I can't remember.
Spirulina.
At the moment, spirulina, that's it, not Medina, spirulina. Yeah, and let me mix it with Medina. So what happened is the youths get to hear that, and so the more conscious ones are rocking back in the herbs. And remember, Rastafari has always been here promoting healthy living and that kind of thing. So those youths who have been around the consciousness, yes, they are still aware of that. They are still aware of it, and actually are actively moving towards it. Because when you get an icon now like Chronics who say that, then it influences the youths to buy more of that, to get more of that. So there is that level happening here. Yes.
It should, and they should also, they've got the land and the resources to actually be growing it. It's
that's
not
right.
even a case of buying herbs in Jamaica. You don't have to buy them. You grow them.
Depending, because there are many herbs. So even myself, even though, you know, there's some herbs you can, you know, access to, you might have access to, because there are so many herbs. There are some herbs you have to go to the bush people and get it, and that's a natural thing. It's like, even traditionally, you know, your mother might know certain things, your grandmother might know of certain herbs, but when you really need something, when somebody really sick, then you go to the bushman or the bushwoman, because that's their whole life about herbs. So they're gonna have herbs that you wouldn't normally have, and that's standard, that's normal. So, you know, that is still here. You have the people them who sell, you know, a whole heap of different herbs, you know, and then you have the people up in the hills that know where to find those herbs. So it's which level you want to take it on, you know?
Yeah. I know Noonie was a big thing at one stage over there as well.
Yeah.
Noonie, yeah, man, Noonie, and people still use, Noonie, So like in my mother's yard now, we got Noonie tree round the back. We have guinea hen weed plant right aside. You do have your soursop, because these are plants that wouldn't normally be around. So your tuna, so you've got certain herbs that is local around you. But then if you need, maybe strong buck, yellow buck, or nerve whisk, you might not have those herbs, or the area where it grows may not be this kind of area. It might grow in a different place, so then you go to the herbalist to get certain herbs. You see me?
Yeah, some herbs are mountainous, so you have to go high to get
some
them.
Go by the river, some herbs, so you then go to the herbalist to get certain herbs.
Well, it's beautiful to know that it seems like it's slowly coming back, as you say, even if it may just be due to lack of money, that they're returning to nature, but at least they're doing it.
Yeah, man.
And as
you maintain that knowledge.
I mean, I know also in relation to the farming as well of the foods. That was something that was big as well when I was over there amongst the youths, and I'm talking about farming without the pesticides, organic farming.
So this place where I went to, up in the hills of Johnstown here in St. Thomas, is she has bought some land. What she does, she teaches permaculture and teaches without using pesticides. So what she is responsible for, and she links with the Ministry of Agriculture here, and she's trying to there's a college here where they teach those who are dealing with agriculture and growing on an industrial level. They teach them here in a particular school, and what she's trying to get onto the curriculum is this permaculture. So they're not using the pesticides, but of course these companies the companies may give bursaries to these colleges out here. They may fund them in certain things. So if you're teaching the farmers to grow without pesticides, there's a conflict of interest. So she has a lot of issues trying to get the courses into the curriculum. Now the ironic thing is that she will run courses up where she does it on permaculture, and you have people coming in from the US paying to learn permaculture. And here the big thing now, she's showing people how to grow marijuana, ganja now without using, because the government here now, after all these years of persecuting the Rastafarian, they're now going into ganja production, because now it's a multi-billion-pound industry, but they're late. Canada bought it out about a year ago, and white tool they're out in one day using that crop. And they would have had the leading brand in the world, but it's not until their masters say to them, now you can do it, that they're now running behind. What this woman does is teaches people how to grow organically. So people fly in from outside and they come in and take the course here. So we still have an issue with these companies controlling their interests.
Of course.
And again, if the farmers start doing large farming and not using pesticides, it's a conflict of interest. So there's that struggle which is always going on. The Heru set.
Yeah, but it's for the government now to actually see and work for the people, which is what they're supposed to be doing.
Well, like we said, they have interest. The Petrojam and all those big companies have invested interest. The government have vested interest. So we know who runs the country. So it's this continual struggle for the people, for the ordinary people, rather than those enslavers who have handed down their wealth, their riches and their industry to those who will run it the way they want it, because that is the reality of how these places are run. It's the same slave masters that have handed down to their descendants or to those who they know will maintain the status quo, the system, the way they'd set it up. And so there is always that struggle between the people and those who are oppressing the people and sucking the people dry.
Yeah. Well, this is the system, isn't it? It will always be what it is. So
it was set up with that. The system was set up with in mind to take the energy, drink the blood of the people, and so it's that system that's still in place. And this is, this continual. And as you know, it's that same Heru set that that Wusa set. It's that same. And again, that in all of that struggle is where the life is, which we've learned in initiation, that between the Heru set, that struggle is where life is. So that's where the struggle is, and you've got to decide on which side you're on. You've got to decide on which side you want to stand, yeah.
So can you tell me
in the struggle,
is it, I know that they were thinking of doing this, but have they implemented Marcus Garvey's philosophy being taught in the schools now over there?
Not as far as I know, but that is something again. I was living out here like 20 odd years ago, and you had professors that were strongly, suggesting that, and that has never changed, But again, you have to remember who is in charge of the education system. When you start educating the people of Marcus Garvey, you have to remember that even the parties that we had here, it was Marcus Garvey who first had a political party here in Jamaica. He was the one who was standing and saying that the people should be governed a particular way, and then these parties came in and maneuvered themselves. So Garvey understood the kind of governance that people needed, and when they maneuvered him out of where, his position here, he went internationally. So they understand, the ruling class here totally understand the teachings of Garvey and the liberation that will bring, and that is an actual conflict to the system that they have in place. So that's going to take an almighty struggle to overturn that, but they're still moving towards that,
Okay.
Still moving towards
that.
It's
good to hear that still. It's good to hear that. But you mentioned Heru Set. For the listeners who don't know, I wonder if we could touch a bit on that topic of Heru and Set and the story of the holy drama, considering the day that we are today. Could I leave you to expound on that, please?
Okay, would you want me to just kind of expound on that, please?
Okay.
Well, Heru Seth, Heru is the son of Wusa, and Wusa, Heru would be likened onto the Christ. So Aisha would have been the mother, the Mary, and Heru is the Christ. Would be likened in this time. That's who Heru would stand for. It's a long story, Sen. So I'm not sure if you can tell me specifically, or maybe if you want to say the aspects that you want to go on to, and then I can come in there, because I'm not sure where to start, because that's the whole story, isn't it?
It is a whole story. And if the listeners were listening a couple of weeks back when Zeshmini Hezminio was on the show, and he gave a wonderful explanation of the holy drama and the cosmogony of Kemet. But anyway, what I wanted to bring up today, very briefly, was the fact that this decan that we're in the sidereal calendar, this decan that we're in, this last 10 days, which includes today and ends on Friday, is the Neteru, the gods that govern these last 10 days, are Wasa and Heru. And Wasa being the father of humanity, our ancestral father, and Heru being his son. I found it very interesting that it's, from my limited knowledge before coming to Umtam, I was of the teaching that the religious story surrounding this particular day today was based off Kemetic gods, Wasa and Heru. So by the mere fact that those two Neteru govern this Deccan, and the colonialists have chosen to use this same astrological time frame to pitch their story about this character, I found very interesting, and know that there's no such thing as coincidence.
But also, when the Greeks and the Romans came in, they already found spirituality and spiritual principles in place. And as they do physically, so they do with the spiritual aspect. What they simply do is impose themselves onto, or engraft themselves onto what is already there. So I wouldn't call it so much coincidence as design, because the people were already aware of this time of the year and already had celebrations at this time of the year. They simply imposed their version of events onto, superimposed it, so that they're still taking the energy from this time.
That's right.
So their interest.
Because most people who follow this day, they've been told it's a spiritual day, but they're not really given anything definitive.
Religious.
So yeah, it's more political, religious day than spiritual. So you're right. It's about they know they're drawing on those energies of this Deccan. It's just like when they would never end their prayer without calling on the Kemetic Neteru, the Kemetic god, Amen. They know by adding that to their prayers, it's supposed to enhance it or give it some power or validate their prayers.
Within Russell, we call that, we call them vampires. It's those that suck.
Spiritual vampires.
Spiritual, physical, I mean, when you look at, those people who you see are in the ghetto, or those of us who, had to work on the plantation, you see them, they work hard and they're tired, and you see the descendants, that they give everything. You see them tired out. Then you look and you see the slave master's children pull up in their 4x4. Looking so fresh and rosy, just coming out of the Kentucky, looking really, you see it. They've got their house on the hill, their big house on the hill, while the little youth eat maybe some box food. It is so stark.
Yes.
And they still perpetuate the same way. They feed off the people. They feed off the people. To be honest, I don't know how Jamaicans here are able to, feed and clothe themselves, because the cost of living here is ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's ridiculously high, and the resourcefulness
of they're very resilient.
Our people here have to be able to live day to day. I'm telling you. And I mean, just something as simple as flying out to come and see our family members here in the Caribbean. You will pay 1,200, 1,300, 1,400, up until that, some ridiculous amount. And it's an 8-hour ride from the UK plane flight. And you will go to Japan or China, which is the other side of the world, and you maybe will pay half of that fare.
That's right, yeah.
It's deliberately designed.
And our people have to find that money. Of course, it's designed. We had an airline. You had a Jamaican airline, and the amount of the Air Jamaica, and the amount of things that was done, and I never realized the politics that was played, So, for example, I understood that, because I didn't know, I would always make sure I took that when I came in. It's just another example of how they set their plans and then continually suck the blood of the people. So I wasn't aware that when an aeroplane comes in, they have a certain amount of time to turn around and get back out. If they didn't, they would be fined, because you're fined for taking the time, because other planes have to come in. You've got to use the airspace. Everything has to be. And what they said they would do with Air Jamaica is that they would find ways to make there be delayed. They would say, this has happened and you need to do this and you need to do that. So what would happen is, every time Air Jamaica came in, when they're supposed to do their turnaround time, they could never turn around on time to get back out. And so what would happen is the fines would accumulate. So apart from running that business, and they had competition with BA and others, they could not maintain the national airline anymore. They were driven out of the business. Then came in Virgin. Them two took over the market, boom, everything just shut up.
That's right.
And so they've cornered it. So the national airline is taken out, which was more working for the people. And then you get the bloodsuckers coming in. And that's just an example of how the whole thing is played out, how everything is played out. And so, the people in the Caribbean are living under that. For our brothers and sisters in places like Haiti, I mean, oh my gosh, how they have our brothers and sisters down there. The French, we're seeing now where the French government is now maybe recognizing that, because the African countries are coming together and saying, and I'm so glad. I can't remember the woman that they took out of her position. It wasn't at the UN level, but it was at a level like that in Africa. Was it at the OAU? Because she spoke out against what France was doing. They took her out of her position. That was the best thing that they did, because now they let loose somebody who has the whole information, and she's just been bringing it out into the world. And now people are seeing more and more that, hold on, you enslaved these people in the country, or you took the country's resources, take 80% of their national wealth and tell them they've got to bank it with you, and then give them the terms on which they can get that back and charge them. What kind of madness is this? What kind of madness do they have us under in this place here? So finally, they're beginning to see, the African leaders, because, and she said it. She said, when our African leaders would choose to not follow France's lead and not give them back the money, what France would do was arrange a coup. So the leaders were afraid to go against France. But now they're banding together and they're standing up against France. And I didn't get to read the article, and I'm trying to find it, where the French president is now saying we were wrong to do it. I'm not sure how much that is. I saw a glimpse and I said I'm going to come back for it, and I'm looking for that article. So I just want to make sure. So I haven't deleted anything off my phone yet, because I want to find the article where they're saying the French president is saying, what we've been doing to African countries is wrong. I mean, because they're now standing together. So I need to see more of that article before I can speak definitively on that. But, this is the kind of struggle, as we know, even Burkina, Thomas Sankara, the same thing, him standing up for the people, and then overthrowing him, using his best friend to take him out. And that process was repeated time and time again in Africa. And it's the same thing that goes down here in the Caribbean, and it's the same thing that took place with our brothers and sisters in Haiti. This is the struggle that we continually have to have, and that's why the knowledge from out of the temples
It's so
will
important,
be paramount in strengthening, the knowledge of our ancestral ways, our spiritual ways, to break the spell of the Leviathan. The Bible calls it this Leviathan, the spell, using the words, the spellings, the casts, the spells on the mind of the people, and having them fighting against ourselves. These are the kind of laws. I was speaking with someone, even when I did the talk at Devon House, we were talking about this same Obia law that they're talking about here, and the fact that, the Jamaican people all say, no, we don't want that, and the kicking out that they're doing. Now, my question to them was, when our ancestors came to Jamaica and they practiced their ancient ways, which they call Obia, when they practiced these ways and came here, were they the ones who called Obia wrong? Were they the ones who said that this thing's evil? Was it our ancestors that said that? Because we came, was it our? No, okay. Who was the one who said that Obia is wrong?
Really,
The slave master, the same person. Where I was standing was in Devon House. It was a estate, a home where they used to, the slave master used to, the same ones who were raping our ancestors, who were murdering our ancestors, and who were making our ancestors work for free. Those were the ones that said that this, but it was not my ancestors that said that, but the person who enslaved me that said that. So let's use logic now. Let's use the logic. Is this thing bad for me, or is it bad for him?
Yeah.
But because of the state of the mind, because the mind has been worked on so much, the very word, the very thought brings fear, because over such a long period of time they've been told it was evil. And it's almost schizophrenic, because Nanny, everybody knows that she used what they call Obia to fight against the soldiers, and we celebrate that because we have her as our national hero. I also brought up the top the reality that in the Bible you had Laban and you had Jacob, who came for Leah, and when to take a wife from Laban, and when when his father-in-law was going to let him go, he said to him, okay, you can take some of the flock, but you're going to take the ones that are speckled. Now this is in the Bible. And there were not many of the flock that was speckled. And so what he did was he used his tradition. He put a stick on the ground. He did what he had to do. And then he made the pregnant goats jump over the stick. And those that jumped over the stick, they gave birth to speckled offspring, causing the speckles to be more than the non-speckled. Now, what is that? It's not Obia, then would I call it Obia? Yet, there is not a word said about it in the Bible. It is accepted when it is used there, which shows that it's always been part of our culture to use spiritual science, the natural science. There are people that use natural science. The only people who have an issue with it is those who don't know how to use it. And so that is the kind of schizophrenic mindset that we have to be working with, because they'll see in one place and accept it, but then wherever the slave master says it's not accepted, they don't accept it. So it again, that's why we're talking about healing. You have to heal the mind, because the mind has been torn apart and confused.
So Om science, the energy reading, that kind of thing, how is that? Is that similar then to what they would refer to as Obia?
No, Obia, no, not necessarily. Because Obia is being able to use the natural science. Is using, things that you would say is not logical. But because you understand the natural laws, you can then manipulate the laws. Because it was the laws, it's understanding the natural laws, and for whatever, let's use the same person we're talking about who put the stick on the ground. It's an understanding of certain things that is able to make when the when the goat jumped over the stick, that child that they carried, or that offspring that they were carrying, became speckled. It's understanding how to manipulate the natural laws. Now, that is what they call obia. To be able to use those natural laws, you know. So that was what. So when they talk about Nanny of the Maroons, for example, she could put a pot, and it wouldn't be on fire, but yet that pot would be bubbling up, but there was no fire underneath it. That is what they call. It's a natural science that she learned, which she took from Africa. And they said that she was actually a Ghanaian, the Ashanti. She was an Ashanti priestess. Yeah, so this is what they because it was from the traditions. They, you know, certain bloodlines have certain traditions, certain knowledge that they carried with them, and so she carried her knowledge with her. That was in the bloodline. That was part of how our culture was set. There were certain bloodlines that give thanks for the Naba bloodline that kept the spirituality of the Wusarian temples, or we wouldn't be able to be speaking today as we are now if that bloodline didn't keep what they had. And this is how we were passing it down through the bloodlines. And that's why they made a point of crossing the bloodlines, crossing everything up so we would forget ourselves. You don't know how happy I was when auntie told me today that my people were coming. I'm just saying, you know.
Yeah, Catasta, this spirit in you are move like a magnet.
It just confirmed it, because I was like, you know. And apparently there's a lane called Bongo Lane, and they called it Bongo Lane because our family were down there, and that's where Bongo used to be, the Kumina used to be, just staying down in Yalas, the Bongo Lane, and that's the way people then used to do it. I was like, okay, finally, you know. But yeah, you know, it's that spirit that is in our people that refuse their wealth and their gold and their titles, because that can't pay for that can't even pay for me or you, or that can't. I mean, you can't put a price on that. It's priceless.
Yeah, because I mean, our topic today, really, right, was similar kind of a thing where our Western society basically has make us look at ourselves as being ugly. You know, again, giving up on the things, our natural beauty, to take on false values. I mean, I'm sure in Jamaica there you can see like a lot of this hairstyles and bleaching and these kind of things going on. As you were saying before, the people, they don't even have money to feed themselves to do certain things, but yet the resources that they put out in these industries is phenomenal, really. You know, could you speak a little bit about that?
Listen, I was passing through this place, and I saw, you know, like we would put on mud masks, you know, to draw out the impurity. So a woman would put on a mud mask, but she would stay in her house, you know, because when she comes out, she'll frighten the world, like she looks like a ghost, right? I saw this brother. I was passing by in the car, and I saw like it looked like it was scary, you know. I was like, what is that on his face? No bleaching cream, the man having fierce, but he might make it tech. So I'm like, dude, and it's not even a woman. I didn't say a woman, I said a man. And you walk and you see their faces are bleached out. I mean, you know, so a part of the entrapment and a part of the dissection of the African was to attack, you know, their very physical appearance. They'd already attacked the culture, they'd attacked the spirituality. They had to then attack their physical appearance. And so, and not just because we talk about attacking, but also you're dealing with the insecurities of an inferior human. Because when the European is attacking and seeking to pull down, so they call it xenophobia. So when you see another culture and you fear that culture, it is because what is really going in is that human being within themselves already feels inferior. So for that human being to make themselves feel like somebody, they must bring down what is in front of them.
That's right, yeah.
So we're not even talking about we're not just talking about them bringing down black people. It's a way for them to feel that they are someone on this planet. Because if you think about it, naturally, when they encountered a civilization that was flourishing, where were they and where were their civilization? So when you encounter that, and you realize in the scheme of things where your place is, if your intention and your heart is not good, meaning that it's not that, okay, I'm going to humble myself and learn to be like them. Because if we talk about the 19th day of Tahuti, when mankind or humanity saw the world of the divine, they wanted to walk and live and replicate the world of the divine. So for that to happen, what humanity had to do was to follow a certain set of guidelines and principles to create that world. But if the one seeing that world has no intention to follow the path that it took to create that, it can only be destruction. Because the path that they're taking doesn't lead to what that world is. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, definitely.
So we're not just talking about them bringing down, it's themselves. Because this journey is about yourself, and we know as initiates, the journey is about you.
As you say, though, it's a hatred for themselves. So in order to kind of to make themselves feel good, they have to make you feel bad about yourself.
Reverse hatred.
That's right.
Yeah, it's a psychology.
That's right.
It's a psychosis, really, isn't it?
It is a psychosis.
That's right.
We're mentally ill because of what they've done to us, and they're mentally ill because of their insecurities. You know.
And so, in the midst of all of that chaos, because there's order in the chaos, if humanity is going to restore any sense, and that's one thing that I've really had to really fully sit and come to terms. It's like you know it, but you don't want to come to terms with it because of all the pain and the destruction that one race has caused upon another. But if humanity, either you're going to wipe out that whole race completely, and if that's going to be more bloodshed, and and all the other races, either that happens, or humanity finds a way to sit at the table and really understand what it means to be a human being and to raise ourselves.
Yeah.
That is the goal. That is the goal.
That's right.
And that is regardless of race, colour or creed.
That's it, because we're talking about humanity. Once you start to talk about humanity, you surpass that, because if we are creations of the divine, it's, if we're talking about humanity, then that's what you're talking about. But people are at different stages of their growth. If you're talking about the divine world and where they are on that journey towards that divine reality, to walk that road, people are at different stages, Yeah.
But once we're all on the same page, then we will see a change in the world for our children's children.
Yeah, but even to be honest, when you say when we are, will we all be on the same page? Because again, with the initiation, it teaches us about Heru Set. I mean, right in the beginning, there's Wusa and there's Set, and Set had a choice, and he chose, and he lives with that immortality. Wusa has a choice, and he chose, so he lives with that immortality. So if we're talking about the divine world, we're talking about principles that are set in time continuous.
Yes.
We're talking about something. So then, if that is the case, we have to decide where we stand. Because because that's already been set. That came before us. Irrespective of us, we came and saw these things in place. So that's why, and then coming back again, we talk back to I'm talking to as myself and as an initiate. Every day I know I'm faced with challenges, and what choices am I going to make? Every day, not even every day, every minute. You know, am I going to say this, or am I going to do this? Am I going to act out of emotions and how I feel, or am I going to use the logic? Do I respond in this way? It's a continual thing.
It is. Even every thought. We want us to be conscious,
and that's the first thing, is your thought.
That's right,
because before the action comes a thought. You know, it's continual. So you have to be a disciple. You have to really want to walk a particular way, and then to walk it, that's your challenge.
That's right. But give thanks for the Makaru, for giving us the tools, reintroducing us to the tools in order for us to be able to can walk that road.
That's right.
So
yes, my brothers and sisters.
Yeah, we have to wrap it up now. And
okay,
Duawu for your energies and knowledge.
Yeah, definitely. Much appreciated. We hope that the listeners, I mean, they got like a good amount of education there on herbs and things, really, which was interesting to me anyway. You know, because we see what the pharmaceutical is doing out there, really, because they're using one drug to counteract another drug, because the side effects, really, right? So it's relentless, really. So it's so important, really, the works that you're doing, you know, that as I say, it takes time to get healed, and it's going to take time to recover. But everybody's trying to look for a quick fix, which it comes with a consequence, you know. It's about, the work that you're doing is in educating the people, then, really, right? Because, the last time I was there, something simple like moringa, it used to be just grown wild until it almost became extinct before they start to realize that, okay, so this, this bush here, and this, it's got a lot of properties to it, so people start to replant that back again, where it just used to grow wild. So it's just having that awareness, though, really, isn't it?
That's right, and at least now people recognize. I mean, you look next door, whole heap of moringa trees in open lot next door, because moringa is just something that grows, So, again, that coming to the prominence and people getting to know it and understand it, you can't. I mean, we cannot go around nature, because when the human being came on the planet, the only thing that was there was the nature. And that will be there when the human being leaves, and the human being is a part of that nature. It's like trying to go around yourself. How can you? You're made from the nature. Your every fiber, every cell, every tissue was made out of the nature. So to feed the nature that you are, you have to feed from that which you came from. And to heal the nature, you have to heal from that which you came from. You have to use the nature. There's no going around it. When you're talking about exploiting, and when you're talking about, making money and industry, then because they can't replicate the nature in terms of its entirety, they'll take the active component, is what they'll call it, out of the plant, and then they can patent it. But it's not the plant is in its entirety, because the plant in its entirety has several, maybe even hundreds of other chemicals in it, elements to it that brings the healing. And that is why when so many of the drugs that they use bring side effects to the body, because it doesn't have the balances forces that nature put into it. But then if they give you the balancing force that nature give into it, they can't make the money. So what the mindset that is running the world is not in favor of the human being. So the human being has to be in favor of themselves.
But they even go as far as to say what they've extracted from the plant is all that we need from the plant, and encourage us to take what they've actually manufactured and abandon the plant in its entirety.
That's the marketing ploy. If they can convince mothers that they can make a formula that is
better than
breast milk and sell it to mothers, they can do anything, my sister. They can market anything, right?
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
I mean, this is why we
You have to be on your toes.
Yeah. This is why we appreciate the Earth Center, because I mean, in the three topics that we're taught, you know, the sunt, so that's giving you a balance of self, you know, on the physical side, and then the spiritual aspect of it, you know, and the cultural aspect of it that, you know, connect you back as a whole, you know, and so this is where we're here trying to kind of put out the works that Nebnaba, Lumusa, and Denibik started really, and
that's right. And you know, because I know with the Earth Center, we also do things like spiritual reading, because that's a whole nother aspect we won't go into too much. But for those who want to gain insights and maybe have certain blockages that are in their lives, the Earth Center offers through Ancaster things like spiritual readings, which we wouldn't get on an everyday, which we used to have traditionally, but these are some of the things that they've stripped away from our culture. But the Earth Center offers that. So again, for those listeners who want to know more on the spiritual side, Earth Center offers that, you know. And you know, these are things. And for those who want to know more about, well, what is it that they're talking about? You know, we've got graduation, where those initiates who have been through per Ankh, the first level, who's been through, they'll be graduating in like about a month's time. You know, and then we'll have orientation, where the doors open for those like yourself and myself, who many years ago, well, 5 or so years ago, who wanted to know more about the Wuserian teachings. You know, the doors open for us, and we walk through and never look back, because the knowledge that's gained. And like I said, I had 30 years of Rastafari teaching, and I will always be thankful for Rastafari and what I've been taught. I will never put that, you know, aside. But what I will say is that another stage was coming in and learning the Kemetic knowledge, where I really got a deeper understanding of traditional knowledge. And for those who, and like you just said, Sunt, if you want to know about traditional healing, that's where you'll understand the principles and things around traditional healing. Medu, that which they call the dead language, the hieroglyphics, the Medumaid, you know, or Medumait, right? Because that's what we learn. You know, if you want to learn the language of the gods, you know, things that you can only learn. And I remember when years ago I wanted to learn hieroglyphs, I went to Kensington. I had to go Kensington to a private class. It was about 30 odd years ago. I wanted to learn it. I had to go, and when I walked into the room, I was the only black girl in the class. And I remember the teacher looked around the class, and obviously I'd started started late. They'd started the course already. And she said, right, I think we're going to have to find a happy medium here. You know, because I'd walked in now, so now they have to balance it because it's black girls, all of that rubbish. But at least with the Earth Center, you know that these teachings are coming from the priests who are teaching this in the bush, in the Kemetic temple. This isn't a European who's coming from the outside of the culture and trying to tell you what's on the inside. This is someone whose bloodline have lived that for thousands of years and teaching you from that perspective. That is unique.
Authentic.
That is unique. And when I tried Rastafari, anything that came in front of me had to stand up strong to convince me. I met me going like that. Because 30 years I tried Rasta no ramp. We're no ramp with men and people. So the Earth Center had to be real to step through those doors. And the other part, which is the Katibi, which for those who don't know the spiritual side and want to know about their spiritual side and the spiritual aspect of our ancestors, that's what the Katibi teaches. It's priceless. It's priceless.
It's a balance.
And that's what I would say.
You're getting a balance there, full balance, a 360 degree of self. And nature, you know,
the journey into self.
Yes, I'm looking forward to coming back to be at the graduation and orientation to celebrate our brothers and sisters who have, you know, made this journey. And we know it's not easy because we've been through. So those who have made it through, we want to celebrate with them and to welcome those who are going to enter into Per Ankh, the house of life.
Yes.
But it's just one request that we're making, that when you're coming back, please bring back some sunshine with you.
Oh man, I'm gonna pray that some sunshine come, because boy,
Buckle up,
I don't want to step into the cold that I've been hearing there at all.
Yeah, man.
Yes, yes, brother and sister.
All right, man.
Okay, do I will.
Well, really right for enlightened kind of, that, your precious time you've given us, really, 'cause we know you're quite busy there, really, still. So,
No, it's always an honor to be able to share. When it comes to the teachings, that's what we're here to do. So, like I said, dua again for the words. Please say Ujjayi to the school, and looking forward to being back there, and for all those who are coming to the event at the London school on Saturday, and I understand there's an event at the Coventry school as well. Not only do you come to the event, but there'll be initiates there who people, any other information that they want to learn about. We've got the Firefly books there, the podium, the calendar, and that's a whole nother thing in itself. And I know you've spoken a lot on the calendar and things like that. The 77, there's so much. There is so much there. So even if it's just a place to come into the school and see, and you can sit and read the Kemetic information that's there, there is so much there. So, looking forward for those who are going to come and share some of the knowledge with our brothers and sisters, our Sen and Senu at the school. So,
Okay. Well, peace, love, and blessings to you and your family.
Likewise.
And hope to see you soon.
Okay, dua will keep up the good work.
All right,
Iri. And that was our mayor of the school, Mayor Catasta, and you can hear she has a lot of knowledge and information to share and impart with all of us, really. And we are grateful as at my eats, really, to have someone like the Fakara generation to pave the way, to continue the school so that others can follow,
So I'm going to do this, let everyone know more about the event on Saturday. So first I'll start with Coventry, the Hidden Dogon Wisdom Revealed lecture series. On Saturday the 28th between 5 p.m. and 7:30 p.m. The lecture is Your Destiny and Your Ancestral Spirit, the Importance of Ancestors, and this is in Coventry, number 18, Biggin Hall Crescent, Coventry, CV3 1GS. Telephone number 07305 995 944 or 024 76 26 6859. And on Saturday in London, and that's our temple in Leytonstone, number 21 Sunnyside Road, London E10 7BB, we have our lectures starting at 6:30 entitled Traditional Healing versus Modern Medicine, and prior to that, starting at 4 p.m. on Saturday, it's Divine Holy Day, so that's where we will have our Zemzem, which is spiritual prayers, meditation, and honoring the Neteru of that Deccan, of this Deccan, and that is Wasser and Heru, with the West called Osiris and Horus.
Yeah, so for those who will want to come to the lecture, they could also come a little bit earlier and partake in the Zemzem.
That's correct.
And have that experience of understanding, even hearing the prayers, and you talk about the book of purification.
So they go through spiritual purification before we start the Zemzem, and we wear white on a Divine Holy Day.
Yeah. So that's from the 28th.
This is Saturday coming on the 28th.
Yeah. And we want to mention, like, say, we have the sidereal calendar, which is a calendar which is
the world's most astronomically accurate calendar based off the Sirius stars.
And the calendar, it carries all of our spiritual days, days that we can that's more energetically favorable to honor the divine world.
The original holy days.
The original holy days, all our spiritual holy days, which is what they refer to as holidays, which that's where the word holiday actually derived from. Yeah, so again, that's where it's been plagiarized, and so they've taken away the spiritual aspect of it and put the religious aspect to it, really, right, which is leading people down a dead end road. But the Earth Center is there, and for all those seekers of the truth, and there is a truth out there, because people would say, well, what make you say that what you're saying is the truth? Well, you come and listen to the information yourself, and then from there you evaluate for yourself and decide what is the truth then, and we've all, you hear Mia Catasta, she was saying she's been in Rastafari for a long time, and that was a stepping stone on the platform to go that little bit deeper. So it's not to say that what some of us are doing out there is wrong, but it's like a ladder. Each step leads you a little bit closer to where you want to reach to. If it's the top of the ladder you want to get to, then each step you climb is going to take you closer there, and that's our journey that we're on, really, trying to get closer to the truth.
Wanted to just read a passing quote to end the show. This is a quote from the Philosophy Podium, A Dogon Perspective, written by Nebnaba Lamusa Moradenibig. It's a Kemetic proverb, I should say. Just keep the chicks from their mother, and then you can gather them. So that means to say, to keep a human being away from his gods and ancestors, and he and she will be lost in space and time, and become easy prey for the predator, the colonizer.
And on that note, we're going to play you one. This is a favorite tune of
because I will always break those barriers and burn down bondage. Oh Lord God Almighty, grant me all privilege. You see, I have to overcome all the wicked, them and them false things. I have no white God, don't teach me anything wrong. Who the white God save me from white man oppression? I have no white God, it's just a black messiah. A white God that bless, so him not blesses. I have no white God, don't teach me anything wrong. Who the white God save me from white man oppression? I have no white God, it's just a black messiah. If a white God that bless, so him not bless. I want what is rightfully mine, so me not stay mute. Your system is designed to distract me from the truth, but it will come to pass. I know not to the youth. In the process of time, we will know the truth. To give we white God to praise in slavery. The doctrine follow on in the black community. The black messiah you try to shield with fantasy, but we not gonna make you destroy the love with luxury. That's why you have to touch home. I have no place in Babylon. As I go, they make me victim of their unjust action. Oh God, I won't be conquered in this region. Oh yes, I have to stand and go strong. Don't tell me of your white God, don't teach me anything wrong. Who the white God save me from white man oppress? I am no white God, it's just a black messiah. A white God that bless you, him not bless. Oh, me face contact with anger, cause that no right. Oh, good all things good and valuable must be white. So what about the black that did the most in life? You and your white supremacy, watch it me as you touch the virgin of the Bible. Oh, you watch it, remember I know the evil won't go unpunished.
am no white God, it's just a black messiah. If a white God a bless, so him not bless. Cause when I tried this like Moses with the rod, with one strong bucket till Almighty Father God is the only second party. Dances love, free guide me through the darkness where the Eden dodge. There wasn't any doubt, but the voice and made to shout. Behold, can't I youth have complete the route? I have no white God, don't tell me anything wrong. Who the white God save me from white man oppression? I have no white God, it's just a black messiah. If a white God a bless, so him not bless his life. I have no white God, don't tell me anything wrong. Who the white God save me from white man oppression? I have no white God, it's just a black messiah. If a white God a bless, so him not bless. That's why me want what's rightful in mine. So me not stay mute. Your system is designed to distract me from the truth, but it will come to pass.
Have no fear for atomic energy, cause none of them can stop the time. How long shall I kill our prophet while we stand aside and look? Some say it's just a part of it. We got food for the boy. Come to my head, come to my head, come to my head. You got your own told story. Far away from far away, far away from far away.